Hello everyone, Kenty Tiger here with Bengali Engineering in Play. We are back in Space Engineers. We're continuing on in the, what I assumed was going to be a short series. Might turn out to be a little bit longer than that. The series was originally entitled Experimentation with Torpedoes. I think we're going to have to change that. It's more like going to be building of the bomber and then building the torpedoes. So even though the series is kind of one and the same, I might just change the name to Experimentation with Torpedoes and Bombers. Don't know yet. So, but obviously we've spent, this is now getting into the third episode. Clearly we are not messing with torpedoes yet. So if you can't get to something within 3 episodes, then perhaps your title is not accurate. So we'll play from there and see where it goes. But ultimately, this is about the bomber because, after all, you need a delivery mechanism of some kind. Having a torpedo is all fine and dandy, but if you can't launch it from something at something, then it's useless. So anyway, here's where we're at on the bomber. I did make a few changes off screen. One of the things I did was add some ice back in. We put all these Gatling guns up here, and I realized that these 3 at the very top were actually not connected to anything. So what I did is added the conveyor system on the side here, which literally goes down and connects into this. That's the one right under that gun, port and starboard. And then brings connectivity up to the 3 conveyors that are right under there. Then I added this armor thing up here. Not really happy with that necessarily, but those Gatling guns are up there. So the only other choice we have is to chop off those top Gatling guns, which we could. The biggest thing that is an issue is actually this aft Gatling turret back here. It's nice to have something that's automatic. The downside, of course, to that is that it's sitting at the same level as the tanks, which is below this level here. So we completely cut off about 20, almost 30 degrees of our arc here in the probably 20 degrees of our firing arc in the front. So that may or may not be a problem. The other thing I was brainstorming a little bit about is how do I add on thrust. Clearly we have some issues. So one of the things that I'm going to do again is bore my way through the fuselage. So we had our gyros here. I'm going to remove those gyros again because ultimately I need to add in these. I found a place up top for thrusters. So to add the thrusters in, I'm going to have to go there. Alright, so going up top side here. Hello, frozen. What I wanted to do was add a conveyor and a conveyor, and then put thrusters right here. So convenient way to hide them in here, and then at the same time we're going to crack open this side and put thrusters here and here. So the idea here is that we want enough sideways thrust and enough downwards thrust that we can actually maneuver. And I don't know exactly how all that's going to work out. clearly we are going to have some issues here and there. So figuring out exactly how to put both sideways thrust and in fact reverse thrust on here is going to be some challenges. So we may be able to let's bore into these areas here and see what happens. Alright, so we do have pieces there. So if I put that one there, let's add on another conveyor there, and that there, and then that kind of opens us up right here. So we have a hole there. I'm gonna do one more, which should have opened us up to add another conveyor at the very bottom there, and then we will add a thruster there. Alright, so needless to say that so we have 4 reverse thrusters, which obviously is not enough. Okay, so we're gonna have to come up with more thrusters to reverse us here. How we do that is possibly going to be a challenge. So one of the things that we could do is add a thruster right in here, because we have room. So add the thruster there. That did ignite. And what I think I am going to do is actually place a curved in here, and let us go ahead and colorize correctly. So we're going to color that one and then put the thruster there. Alright. Very ugly, admittedly. Okay, now, is all this reverse thrust enough? And I think you're looking at this and saying, Kenty, that was the stupidest thing you've ever done. Admittedly, no, not the stupidest thing I've ever done. But one of the things to remember about the hydrogen thrusters is it needs 4 blocks. So if you see here at full thrust, this is only going to go to that 3rd block and slightly into the 4th block. So because I have a 4 block gap, this is actually plenty. I'm never going to roast off that that front piece there. So this is actually a good thing. The other thing that we could do, I would love to have a slope, but there isn't a slope. Yep, isn't slope. So question is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 reverse thrusters enough? Don't know. Maybe, maybe maybe not. Or do we change things up a little bit right here? So let's go to 8 and 2. Click. And add these into the world of the gatling. Okay, so this is actually now 9 reverse thrusters, which might be alright. Makes me feel a little better about this contraption up here at the top. The other thing I could do, if we are really just trying to figure out what to do here, is change this thing up 1. So here's something else that I'm going to do just because, is put a hydrogen thruster there and there. Now, does that affect the firing arc of the weapon back here? Yes, absolutely it does. So if we line up here and look just a little bit, technically, if I'm firing forward, I have to be around that to miss. Okay, so if we think about our angular deviation here, then to get around this, I'm going to miss that anyway. So that's kind of why I decided to go ahead and do that, because I think we're going to miss anyway. Alright, what do we have in here? There are 2 ports on the side of this tank. So this is right there. And another one there. Which adds 4 thrusters to the side. Is 4 enough? I don't know. Actually, the only way that we could add them in there is if we actually brought the conveyors down that far and then take these out and have 5 thrust per side if we wanted to. The other thing that we could do is pull there and a pull there. Now, what we could do, and this is kind of just personal preference if we want to make this look a little differently, I think I'm just going to leave the slopes the way they are. The rugged side-to-side slopes. Okay, so what do we have? We have 6 thrusters side to side. We have 10 thrusters going up. We have 9 thrusters that are a reverse thruster, which is what we want. Alright, so now that I've ripped this apart again, let's go ahead and put our gyroscopes back in here. So, gyros, make sure I'm facing them the right way, which actually there isn't a wrong way, it's just putting them in. Alright, change that back to tiger orange, and that is that. Then, we need to figure out, that's the tip. There we go. Bing, bing. Alright. So, 6 side-to-side thrust, and in fact, I have some fun back here, and put that and that, and then 8, 1, and that. So now we have 7 thrust side to side. It should be 20. Alright, so one of the things I did again off screen was in fact this connector down here. So obviously we're gonna have to figure out a way to get materials into this vessel. We need ammo, we need ice, obviously for the hydrogen. So how are we going to do that? One of the other things that I was toying with is how to turn this into a tail. Obviously we're going to have to put a tail of some kind onto here. And I was thinking that we would narrow this down to a 3x3, or rather a 3 wide assembly, and then bring another tail off, and then in fact a tail up. Now, of course, you're thinking, well, what's the use of this gatling gun if we have a tail out here? It's more because this is supposed to be a plane, right? And granted, it's a rather dramatic mix of plane and thrust capable. So obviously, it can go in space. Well, provided we have enough lift to get us out of the gravity well, which I think we will. I'm going to try and put a large thruster back here. So how do we go about doing what we need to do back here? And the real question at this point is, what do we need to do back here? So do we put another hydrogen tank? I don't think so. I think we've got plenty enough hydrogen. We've got those 2 tanks there. So obviously this is not necessarily going to be transitioning from space to planet surface often. And probably in one of the episodes towards the end we're going to actually test this. So I do want to take it into an atmosphere and actually glide it down. One of the other things that I really do need to do is figure out, do we want to put landing gear on this? Or is this something that we come in on thrusters and then use maneuvering thrusters and then set ourselves onto the ground? And that's really going to be, you know, a question that's a design question. I know that was kind of a duh statement, but you know, it's kind of what do we want to do? I prefer landing gear, and the reason why I prefer landing gear, as in the generic Space Engineers landing gear, is because I like to land on a landing pad and anchor. Now, if you've played Space Engineers for a little while, you know that landing gear can be a little wonky. So if you save your game, you bring your craft, whatever they happen to be in, land them, put them on the deck, and then save and walk away, reload your game, then it's a 50-50 chance whether those landing gear are actually going to still be locked. I've had a lot of problems where we think something is locked and it isn't, and it rolls over and goes bang, and you come back because you've been working somewhere else and discover, you know, your base, your landing pad, whatever, is a total disaster area because something happened. Clang happened. It's kind of one of those frustrating things. Now, I haven't noticed that to be the case with a connector. So, you know, there may be some value in, well, why don't we just put the wheel, you know, landing bays in here, and we may, in fact, do that. Obviously, I have a lot to learn here as far as the wings go. I have a lot to learn about this particular mod, and trying to figure out how everything works. So obviously, with air brakes, we may actually be able to control our descent very well. And it may be something that we will want to experiment with even more and actually see, can we put enough air brakes out to not only slow us down dramatically, but slow us down to the point where gravity and acceleration due to gravity becomes moot. And if that's the case, then we can literally coast our way in. We're actually not using any hydrogen to slow our descent, which actually would be really neat. So, what do we need to do back here? There's going to be a lot of space that is wasted. So what I'm thinking is rather than just simply waste that space, we'd actually put something useful in. So let me put blocks here. You know, I probably could have say, is there a way I could have done that? Maybe not. See, the question here is, do I want to put something else in here, such as a large cargo container? Do we need a large cargo container? Does this become a bomber fighter cargo ship? Or do we... So the only reason to continue on with the large ports all the way aft is that ultimately I want to put a large thruster in the back for the main forward propulsion. And I don't think we would need more than that to lift this thing off the ground. Maybe, maybe not. I really do not know. So, for the sake of just testing, so the question is, what are we going to do back here? And I think perhaps do a corner and do corner, a block, so slope, slope, slope. I don't know how this is going to look, so we're doing an inverted corner. I don't know if I like that. So maybe we do the inverted corner here, and the block here. Perhaps. All right. Alright, that goes there. another slope here, and a corner here. Alright, so effectively what we're going to do is this might be fun. Alright, so we have 7 thrusters to the side. Don't know if that is sufficient or not, but I'm going to go ahead and just, because we can, put another one right there. Why? Because we have room, and it is in a line with those. Alright, so 0, 1, and a block. There we go. Alright, and this becomes a slope here. Corner slope. Slope, slope, slope. Which then brings us to the center. And cargo blocks. Let's go into number 8. I think we got the gyros already in. I think just because there's room. Alright, so in this case, do I need cargo containers? I think the answer is no. So, why are you putting them in, do you ask? The reason for that is, alright, so we're going to put some temporary blocks in here. Why am I putting temporary blocks? I know I just blurbed out of the last thought process into this one, but I think we will try and make sense of things. So I'm going to use blue as my temporary blocks. We want this to actually be blocks. So I'm going to bring this back to about there. So here's what I want to do. Visually, I want to see where does the aft trying to remember my aerodynamics terminology here. Ailerons and elevators. Elevators. That's what I was trying to think of. So normally the elevators would be on this this aft portion here. So where does it look good, and where does it look hideous? So let's turn that off. We'll go back into this. We need number 7. Back to Tiger Orange here. Do we really need these great big huge ones? And how big do they need to be? So what I was actually thinking is something on those lines. I think I like that. And then we're going to try and do the exact same thing that we did in the front here. Is that the one we used? Let's have a look. Yes, it is. So if we do this, then we maintain a certain symmetry to this whole thing. Get rid of that one. So what I want to do is 6. We want to do really, really steep. Oh, we can't use that one. But we can use that one. We can indeed. Well, certainly unique. Alright, so now that I've visualized this, what do we need to do? Well, we know we're keeping most of that. So let me go ahead and change that back into and I guess I might as well do it that way. Other than I had my tiger stripe down the bottom here, and the problem with putting the tiger stripe down the front, why not? We'll go ahead and do that one, and do the tiger stripe here. Alright, so one of the things that just turning this from a temporary into something else is actually filling in these little holes. I don't think there is anything else I could put here other than a battery, or several batteries, in fact. So the problem here is I need a connection to hold everything up here. So let's go ahead and we got a connector there, because otherwise all this would just totally fall apart. Because I just completely took away its connection point. So control, we have a battery there. Turn this sideways. Are the lights on these batteries forward or aft? They are forward. So battery. And that's a dark colored there. So let's go back to our tiger orange here. Change. Alright. And we're still connected there, so let's put in yet another battery. And that is solidly connected on there. Alright, so given this scheme that we have here, let us look at something. I don't know if we're going to be able to pull this off or not. I don't know. I think there is only yeah, I was so this is going to have to be that. What I want to do, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this, is yeah, put that right there. Oh, wrong. Alright, let's 5. We're gonna put one more cargo container, and then put that there. Looky there. Alright. The things I need to do here, so 0, this is temporary. So what I wanted to do here is bolt the wings on, and the reason for that is I'm going to put yet another battery down here. I'm a true believer there cannot be too much power. 0, 8, 3, put our third battery in here. Now if I was being really intelligent, I would actually put the third battery in here and move these wings backward 1. And I think I'm going to do that. I'm not sure if there's any easy way to do that. Alright, so there's my my next battery. Put that there. We know that we have our wing piece 6 is there and there. So we're going to figure out what this piece is by virtue of that. So it's that one. I think this is going to end catastrophically. Oh, you know what? I'm okay. And the reason I'm okay is because this piece is actually that whole piece, so it's still mounted. And that one, no. There we go. That one, which now goes there. Alright, and then 7 is that piece. So we put that one there. And if all is well, then we are solidly connected on, and now we just need to identify what this particular piece is. You know what? I am going to use that one. There's a change in angle, admittedly, but I do like the fact that this is swept forward just a little bit more. And there it is. I rather like the design. Alright, so the next question is, where do we put the tiger stripes? I think we will start tiger tiger striping right down this side piece. The Gatling guns are kind of black all. Oh darn! Didn't want to do that. Eventually, we're going to run into that battery there. Or do we want to do that? Or do we change that back into Tiger Orange and do the wing back that way? Oh, darn. That whole piece. That doesn't look too hideous. And then these are so there is a certain symmetry there. Alright, I think we're gonna go with that. Alright, now the only other thing that we could possibly consider back here is, let me see if I can, more air brakes. Do we need more air brakes? Okay, so one of the things, I think, in fact, before I do that, yeah, I'm kind of getting a little sidetracked here. So we need our stabilizer. Actually, that's I need number 7. And how tall do we have? So it looks like the 6 high is the most we have. I'm going to go to I guess we kind of have to stick with the black, don't we? All right, and then 6. So do we have a flat back or sloped? I think there's a flat, there's a sloped. think I'm going to do here, and this may end horribly. 7 is to actually put this forward of that. The reason for that is, and then 6 again, which then adds that on there. And not gonna let me do that. Alright, 2. Alright, so looking at this, I have 6, 7, 8, 9 downward thrusters, which is to say pushing me down. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 reverse. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we could actually add a couple more to the sides if we really wanted to. In fact, I don't see a reason not to. Which would give us some sideways thrust. Let's pull that one off. Maybe put one there and take that one off. Okay, this is where I start swearing, because it's clear that the reticle and the reticle and the red box is pointing to the thruster. Why do people stop playing Space Engineers? That's why. Right there. The stupid, clangy bullshit that happens. Now, if there were an undo function, what building game in the universe does not have an undo function? I'll give you 3 guesses. First 2 don't count. Space Engineers. The only game I can think of that is a building game that doesn't have an undo function. What the hell were they thinking? It's been mentioned on the forums a bunch of times, and they're not listening. You know, there are some things where the folks at Keen are really very interactive. And there's other things where they absolutely ignore what the player base is asking of them. And I don't know why. I don't know why that is. Okay, there's a certain non-symmetry here. So I'm going to go back to number 8, number 1. We're going to put, gotta change back to the black. I'm going to put one there and remove that one. There. Got the big thruster back here. Maybe just for fun. Should have put that one on there, and then that one. Hit it when it freezes. Makes me think something clangy is going to happen. Alright. That there, that there. Now, what I was thinking is that maybe I could move this one up one, and then put the 4th aft thruster there, and maybe we will go ahead and do that. So let's put that up 1. We add in this aft thruster right there, and then the question is, do we put the other thruster up 1? And I think we should. Then we have to figure out these little pieces. Wingtip. So, number 5, what is this thing? A little bit strange looking, but it works. Yep, I think we can live with that. Alright. The only other thing here that might actually be useful, 7. See what this thing is. Alright, where is the arrow on this? There it is. Alright, because the arrow is kind of in the wrong place. 6. That's flat. I wish there were. change that to tag orange. Alright, I kind of like that. Good news is there's an awful lot of wing surface here. Now, these vertical ones here, at least according to Digi, at least my interpretation of what Digi said on his page, is that these actually, because they're sideways, will not arrest lift. I don't know if that's true or not, because it's all about forward motion. So even though there is forward motion there, they're sideways. So I don't know if that affects, is this relative to an axis or relative to the axis of the wing itself, and I do not know that. I really truly have no idea. So the next thing is, okay, we're gonna do an alteration here. Theoretical strength down the side here. Yeah, I think we'll use the twin block pieces here. This one here, rotate, then the tip, and oh, frozen. Well, definitely a strange looking contraption. Alright, so we have a forward camera, as silly as this one looks. In fact, that might look less silly if we change that to stripey black. Yes, indeed. A little less obvious. Alright, aft. Where can we add an aft camera? How about we do just because I don't know what I'm looking at here. Alright. Put that there. A little bit steeper slope than the wing. And then back to a number 8 and camera. Turn that right side up, and that is now our aft camera. So we have a forward camera and an aft camera. And just because it's convenient, I'm going to put the port and starboard cameras here. And yeah, we'll add some more black on there. So there's the port side camera and the starboard side camera. Alright, we have an infinite amount of space to put on a dorsal view camera. So I'm going to go ahead and put it right here. So as my convention always, which I've described before, my camera view, my theory is that you're sitting in the cockpit here. To look up, you have to lean back and tilt your head back, so your chin is now facing forward and your forehead is facing aft. So my camera has to be positioned exactly the same. Okay? So camera, in this case, which marks the top of the camera, is facing aft. The dot there on the bottom left becomes my forward. So that one is where it needs to be. I'm going to cheat a little bit because I need to put a camera down here. But in this case, the camera is, I want it close to my connector. So here's the same theory. I'm sitting in the cockpit to look down, then I have to lean forward, look down. Just pretending there's a hole in the bottom of the cockpit and I can look all the way through. So my chin is now facing aft, my forehead is facing forward. Forehead is facing forehead. So my camera is positioned the same way. The top of the camera now facing forward, the bottom of the camera now facing aft. So click, done. Alright, so there's my 6 views for the camera. So let us go through. We're actually going to use that as a control point. We turn that off. We have a couple more batteries now that we're going to set to recharge auto, batteries save, config toggle, and terminal toggle. We have cameras. This is forward view. Because I always do these in order, I don't have to remember the numbers. So this is my aft view. This is my port side view, EW. This is my starboard view. This is my dorsal view. And then finally my ventral view. Alright. We're going to call those cameras. Imagine that. We do need those on the toolbar, so we're not going to turn off the toolbar, but we are going to turn them off in the terminal. Alright, gyroscopes. This is actually gyro number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6. And we're going to attach those onto gyros, toolbar config toggle, and terminal toggle, which should turn those off. Now, I've got a bazillion hydrogen thrusters, including that large one. Right? Okay. So, actually, let me change that to just plain old thruster. Alright, so we'll do that again. All of these new thrusters here, right down to there, and then add that one on there, and then we have this thing called thrusters, save, config toggle, and terminal toggle. Alright, medium cargo container. So I had multiple containers here. So let's go ahead and we're gonna turn those back on, come back in. So I called this medium ammo. I think what I'm gonna do is say medium miscellaneous 01. So this is a shift home, a control C. Sorry, I didn't need to exit. And then we're going to, so this is an A, a V, and a 2. Control A, Control V, 3. Control A, Control V, 4. Control A, Control V, 5. So now we have all of these miscellaneous containers. What I'm going to do is cargo ammo. I'm going to disconnect this, which is a control left click. So you see that one away. I'm going to save, which is going to resave that ammo group. And then we're going to turn it off. Okay, so that will be all these small containers which go away. Then we're going to select these 5. We're going to say cargo medium miscellaneous. Save. We're going to do a config off and a terminal off. That puts everything up there. Alright, so we have a gatling turret. We have the cockpits here. The cockpits have an inventory, but there's really no reason to have them in the toolbar. So I'm going to go ahead and turn those off. There is an inventory, so I'm going to leave those there. And we have this gatling turret here, which also has an inventory. We do need that in the toolbar config, which those we did not. Alright, so here's what I'm going to do. No toolbar, no toolbar. I need that in the toolbar, and I need that in the toolbar. Okay, so everything is fine. And all of these have an inventory, so I want to leave the inventory alone. But I'm going to select all 4 of those, and we're going to call this Systems Miscellaneous. And why am I doing that? Well, I just like to get garbage off the screen. Okay, if you don't need something in your terminal and you could really never use it in your terminal, I put it somewhere. And my Systems Miscellaneous is my somewhere. Okay, so I'm going to leave this one alone because that will select the group globally. Inventory will select the group globally, and I'm just going to turn this off because I've already selected those individually. Bing. So now you see I have one more line down here, so I got rid of everything off the screen. The only other thing that I could actually do is I have no reason to address these cargo containers independently. There's no reason for them to be on the toolbar. There's no reason for them to be in the terminal. Okay, so really what I could do is do all 3 of these and say containers and go save, and then in my containers they're already turned off. So what I can do at this point is literally just delete these 3, and then I have 1. Okay, makes a few more things simple, gives yourself another couple lines. Now, remote control, you can hide into this systems thing. The problem is when you select this, having it hidden somewhere makes it really difficult to take control of it when you're trying to take remote control of it. I don't know that we would ever do that, but it's possible. Antenna. Whenever you add the antenna to a group, let me demonstrate for you. So I've got the antenna selected here. I'm going to go ahead and control and click on thrusters just for S&Gs. And you notice everything vanishes. All you can do is toggle the block on and off. So you lose your ability to configure. to bring it back, for example, if I were to figure out how to hide that. So antennas are one of these really weird things, and I don't work enough with beacons, but I'm presuming they're the same, because they kind of serve the same function as a beacon. It's just a, you know, this is where I am kind of a thing. So I always leave the antenna and the remote control ungrouped. All right. I think that is a grand stopping place for us tonight. So this is really, I think, a pretty decent looking bomber. Now, does it have some weird things? Yes, absolutely it does. I'm not sure I like that sloped back. I like it on the wings, the main wings. I don't know if I like it on that back portion. I mean, I do, but I don't. So we may consider doing something else there. In the interim, oh, excuse me. In the interim, I think this is a good stopping place. I'm just a hair over an hour, which I like to keep things pretty close to an hour. So, well, hope you join me next time. We'll continue on with the building of the bomber. And I think next episode we will actually get into building the actual missiles. I think that's where we're at now. So now that we have the wings, then we figure out exactly where everything is going to be, and then possibly how we put on these projectors. So, should be fun. So, until next time, this is KTC Tiger signing off, and we will see you later.